Okay, we have the delegate of Ireland. I'll just write the country names here. The delegate of Norway, the delegate of Lebanon, the delegate of Spain, the delegate of China. We don't have him right now. The delegate of Palestine, the
He joined
delegate of
in.
France. Ubaidullah joined in.
Yeah, he's here.
Right. We have the delegate of China. We have the delegate of Egypt, United States, Germany, Israel, Iran,
United Kingdom.
Russia, United Kingdom. No, we don't have Russia, right? Okay. So we don't have Pakistan yet. Yeah, I guess it's done. We have 13 delegates right now.
Yes, and all of them you should specify present and voting or no vote. Just begin it formally.
Okay, so I guess the delegates who don't want to be involved in the voting process can raise their hands right now. Okay, so I think all are present and voting. Right. Subhan bhai, over to you again.
Okay, perfect. So we have 14 delegates. So the simple majority stands at 8. With that, we are now in a formal session. Are there any points or motions on the floor? Yes, delegate of Israel.
The delegate of Israel would like to raise a motion for the commencement of the session.
That motion is in order and passes by the discretion of the dice. Are there any other points or motions on the floor? Delegates, are there any points or motions on the floor? Yes, Lebanon, you have the floor.
Am I audible?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you, Chair, for the recognition. So the delegate of Lebanon would like to present a motion for the moderated caucus on the topic the humanitarian situation in Gaza right now.
Delegate, that motion is out of order. Are there any other points or motions on the floor? Yes, delegate of Iran.
Delegate of Iran wants to raise a motion on the topic, the violation of international laws.
That is also out of order. Yes, delegate of Lebanon.
Sorry, I had not put down my hand. It was just
Okay.
raised. Sorry.
Yes, delegate of Israel.
The delegate of Israel would like to raise a motion for the commencement of the GSL.
Yes, for the re-establishment or for the resumption of DSC. Can you rephrase your motion, please?
We're gonna start with the reestablishment of the GSL.
Perfect. That motion is in order and passes by the discretion of dice. All those wishing to speak in GSL, kindly raise your hands. Yes, delegate of Spain, you have the floor.
Can they first specify the time constraints?
So we'll have GSL by the default time, that is 1 minute and 30 seconds, and GSL will elapse by the discretion of the dice. So you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to speak.
Okay. And am I clearly audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Thank you. Respected chair and esteemed delegates, buenas tardes. As of May 2024, 35,000 lives have been lost in the conflict between Israel and Palestine. A massive number considering 54% of them are women and children. And this is just the last few months. Entire generations have been raised in conflict, in tragic violation of human rights principles. Some delegates here are still picking sides, which is a grave concern for everyone expecting a solution from us. Did we not learn from the 77 years of conflict? I request that they join us in the search for peace. This is not merely a political conflict, it is a human tragedy. First and foremost, we call for an immediate ceasefire of cessation of hostilities, ending the blockade, and unfettered delivery of humanitarian aid. The delegate of Spain believes that peace is not merely an absence of war, but the presence of justice, freedom, and respect for human rights. The United Nations Human Rights Commission and the International Court of Justice need to get involved to hold those responsible for this accountable, regardless of their position, nationality, and geography. And the great nation of Spain will always stand for peace and for human rights. Muchas gracias. Viva la paz. Viva España.
Okay, so delegate of Ireland, I'll just first recognize the speakers. So then Ireland, followed by Iran, then Lebanon and Egypt. Yes, delegate of Ireland, you have the floor for the next 90 seconds. Okay, Ireland. Delegate of Iran, you have the floor.
Am I audible?
Yes, delegate.
In today's MUN session, the delegate of Iran stands against the cruelty. Israel is a terrorist state. That is not a slogan, that is the reality. Israeli says that they are doing this in return of the Hamas attack. But when there was no Hamas, long before there was any Hamas, long before there was any rocket flying into the Israel, you had 20 years long occupation of Gaza and West Bank in which Israel killed an average 32 Palestinians every single year. There were no terrorists, there were no rockets flying into Tel Aviv. And yet the Israeli military was killing 32 Palestinians for 20 years from 1967 to 1987. And what do you know? And first Intifada breaks out in December 1987 when an Israeli truck driver kills 4 Palestinians in Gaza, and the year after that, from late December 1987 until 1988, Israeli military personally killed 142 Palestinians per year. Guess how many casualties they suffered? Were they zero? Not. It was non-violent revolt. It was Palestinian kids who were killed and slaughtered by Israelis. Israel is the real terrorist state on the earth. And this is the reality, their reality. They are breaking all the laws. How many laws to break? How many kids to kill? How many hospitals to attack? How many women to rape? What is UN doing now? What is the responsibility of UN? Delegate of Iran demands the UN for immediate ceasefire.
Time's up, delegate.
Yes, Delegate of Ireland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. This is the Delegate of Ireland. Today, I'm standing before you not to speak, but to bear witness to the voices of those silenced, to the pain of those oppressed, and to the undeniable truth that human rights are being systematically violated in Gaza. For decades, the people of Gaza have lived under conditions that no human being should ever endure. The blockade is in its 17th year, has suffocated the economy, restricted the freedom of movement of the Gazans, and denied access to essential goods, services, and medical care. Israel is targeting the displacement shelters, killing entire families being removed from existence. Why is the world allowing this? Why is Israel allowed to act with such impunity? I demand the delegate of Israel to answer. Thank you.
Delegate, you would like to yield your time to?
I would like to yield the rest of my time to delegate of Israel or the delegate or the chair.
Okay, Delegate of Israel, do you accept the yield?
The delegate of Israel would like to reject these baseless claims and would like to condemn the behavior from the delegate of Iran and the delegate of Ireland to convene at this stage with baseless accusations that have no historical background that do not have any evidence at all. So that deserves a condemnation from all the members of this committee at this hour. And the delegate of Israel would like to ask the rest of my members to condemn with me. Thank you.
Okay, Delegate. So just to clarify, accepting a yield means that yield means like they had like 40 seconds left, so she was giving you the yield so that you can speak. So accepting a yield doesn't mean that you're replying to her, just adding it. So and with that, we have the delegate of Lebanon on the floor. You have the floor, delegate.
Appreciated for the recognition, Chair. Honorable Chair, as a representative of Lebanon, I stand before the esteemed Council to address a matter that has plagued our region for decades, the Palestine-Israel conflict. This is not just a geopolitical issue, but a profound humanitarian crisis that affects millions of lives daily. Lebanon, as a neighbor directly impacted in the conflict, knows too well the consequences of unresolved tensions and the cycle of violences that has perpetuated suffering and instability. We are a nation that has felt the ripple effect of displacement, insecurity, and war. Our commitment to peace is not just a diplomatic stance, but a necessity for survival and prosperity. The international community, particularly the United Nations, bears a responsibility to uphold the principles of justice, human rights, and international law. Yet, despite numerous resolutions, the suffering continues unabated, and the hope for a two-state solution seems more distant than ever. Lebanon urges this Council to move beyond mere condemnation and to take decisive action that ensures accountability, protects civilians, and lays a solid foundation for lasting peace. We must rekindle hope not just through words but through concrete steps that reflect our collective commitment to justice and peace in the Middle East. Thank you very much, and I yield the rest of my time to the Chair.
Thank you, delegate. Delegate of Egypt, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We had no food, no electricity, no internet, nothing at all. We don't know how we survived. These were the words of a man who left northern Gaza. The war in Gaza began in its current form after the atrocities on October 7th and since killed more than 40,000 Palestinians, including 15,000 children, displaced more than a million people, made Gaza uninhabitable per the UN, and is being investigated at the International Court of Justice as a possible genocide. Point to be noted, Egypt is not defending the war crimes of Hamas on 7th October. The Israeli is using starvation of civilians as a method of warfare in the Gaza Strip, which is a war crime. Hamas committed war crime on 7th October, but Israeli military and Gaza are also committed war crimes as well. The ICC chief prosecutor has asked for the arrest warrant not just for Hamas's leader, but for the Israeli PM and the defense minister for war crimes and crimes against humanity. He said he has mountains of evidence. We all have seen with our own eyes that Israelis committed war crimes on camera, killed unarmed people who were carrying white flags, blew up apartment buildings, dropped 2,000 bombs on crowded refugee camps. Israeli officials have made public statements expressing their aim to deprive civilians in Gaza of food, water, fuel. Statement reflected in Israeli forces military operations.
Time, delegate.
Okay, so with that, the time for the general speaker list has elapsed. We'll now be looking forward for a motion for a moderated caucus. Are there any points or motions on the floor? Yes, Delegate of Iran.
Delegate of Iran wants to raise a motion for the commencement of
Delegate, you're not audible.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible now.
The delegate of Iran wants to raise a motion for the commencement of moderated caucus.
That motion is out of order. Delegate, there is no commencement of moderated caucuses. You just have to raise a motion for a mod on a topic, right? So if you have any topic of a moderated caucus, yes, Delegate of Iran.
The delegate of Iran wants to raise a motion on the topic, the violation of international laws during the conflict.
That motion is in order. Are there any other points or motions on the floor? Yes, Marhama Sohail, kindly specify your country.
I'm the delegate of Palestine. The delegate of Palestine wants to raise a motion for a moderated caucus, that is the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Perfect. That is also in order. And can you specify the time parameters?
15 minutes whole and 1 minute for each speaker.
Okay, and Delegate of Iran, can you also specify your time?
15 minutes and 1 minute and 30 seconds for each. 10 delegates will speak on the topic.
Perfect. Are there any other points or motions on the floor? Okay, seeing none, we'll first be voting in order of precedence. We'll first be voting on the motion that is raised by Delegate of Palestine to discuss the humanitarian crisis due to the Israel-Palestine conflict, where time parameters 15:1. All those in the favor of this motion, kindly raise your hands. That motion passes. Delegate of Palestine, would you like to be the first or the last speaker?
I want to be the last speaker.
Okay. All those wishing to speak, kindly raise your hands.
Chair, can you repeat the time parameters, please?
It's 15:1. Okay, so we'll first, so I delegate of Norway, then followed by delegate of France. Yes, Etisham, you can make a list. Norway, followed by France, Egypt, Ireland, Spain, Lebanon, and yeah, that's it. So we'll recognize further speakers later. And Delegate of Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. The delegate of Norway would like to make it clear to everyone that we know how this conflict has. We know we have witnessed human rights violations of the extreme nature in this conflict, and I would like to point out some of these violations. With these being, first of all, I would like to say that the conflict has not just been limited to the to the Gazan Strip, but in fact it has also spread to the West Bank. I would like to point out that there have been more than 40,000 people killed in the Gaza Strip just from the commencement of this, from the 7 October attacks. More than 60% of residential buildings have been damaged. It has been reported by the UNRWA, an independent body operating under the United Nations, that people in almost 60% of the water infrastructure in Gaza and has been demolished, and that about 625,000 people have no access to education. Everybody can see that the situation is indeed grave, and therefore I would like to point out some of the I would like to highlight some things that have been done commenced by Norway with respect to the situation. Norway has always been upholding the freedom of individuals and rights in conflict and rights of people in conflict zones. I would like to point out the fact that in 2023 only Norway contributed about $22 million to support these initiatives, which are part of the humanitarian aid and support for civilians. We have also provided support to human rights organizations.
You can stop speaking.
All right.
Yes, delegate of France, you have the floor.
Am I audible?
Yes, delegate, you are.
Okay, so Mr. President and distinguished delegates, France is deeply alarmed by the devastating humanitarian crisis in Gaza, exacerbated by the ongoing conflict. The situation is unacceptable and demands an immediate attention. We condemn the indiscriminate attacks on civilians, including women and children, and the targeting of healthcare facilities and humanitarian infrastructure. The blockade of Gaza has led to 70% of the population relying on international aid and 40% unemployment rate, limited access to basic services like healthcare, water, and sanitation, as well as electricity shortages. France calls for immediate ceasefire and protection of civilians, unrestricted access for humanitarian aid and personnel, lifting of the Gaza blockade, support for the reconstruction of Gaza's infrastructure. We pledge to increase humanitarian funding for Gaza, as well as support the UNRWA's vital work. Work with international partners to address the root causes of the conflict. The people of Gaza deserve our collective action.
Yes, delegate of Egypt, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Umar Shakir, the Israeli and Palestinian director at Human Rights Watch, said, for over 2 months, Israel has been depriving Gaza's population for food and water, a policy spurred on or endorsed by high-ranking Israeli officials and reflecting an intent to starve civilians as a method of warfare. World leaders should be speaking out against abhorrent war crimes, which have devastating effects on Gaza's population. On the 31st of October, according to Human Rights Watch, Israeli forces unlawfully attacked a 6-story residential building, killed 106 civilians, including 54 children, without any warning. 4 strikes completely demolished. Human Rights Watch found no evidence of a military target in the vicinity, making the strike unlawfully indiscriminate under the Israeli authorities, provided no justification for the attack. Thank you.
Yes, delegate of Ireland, you have the floor.
Chair, here I would like to have your attention. Momina has joined us. She will be co-chairing this session with you.
Okay, perfect.
Ehtisham, some people have raised their hands to be included in the speakers list.
Right, the delegates who want to be added to the speakers list, drop down your names in the chat box, please. The country names.
Chair, may I continue? The delegate of Ireland. Am I audible?
Yes, delegate. You can continue.
Okay. Thank you for the recognition. This is the delegate of Ireland speaking. According to the Irish MEP Claire Daly in her address at the European Union, The European Union is aiding and abetting in a war crimes, including the bombing of hospitals, and still we find it impossible to say that Palestinian lives matter, and privileging one category of victims over the other. No, respected Chair, it never started on October 7. Israel has been targeting paramedics intentionally and murdering them, like in July 2014. It is systematically targeting and killing journalists and healthcare workers even before October 7. In 2023, 75% journalists that were killed were died in Israel's war on Gaza, where 72 out of 99 were Palestinian. Children are having their jaws and limbs blown off. According to Israeli Minister of Education, Shlomat Aloni, we exploit the Holocaust and anti-Semitism to protect Israel from criticism. It is a trick we use.
Time's up, Delegate.
Thank you.
Okay, here I would like to ask the chair, can we add more people to the speakers list? Because I think that we are done for this mod. Can we add them?
Yeah, it's time parameters. Like we have 15 minutes in total, and we still have like got 4 speakers, so we can take many speakers more.
All right, right.
Should the delegate of Spain start? Chair?
Yes, delegate, you can start.
Hello, this is the delegate of Spain. The condition of people living in the war-torn country should be a matter of grave concern for all of us. Right now, as we speak, thousands of civilians are in desperate need of food, water, medical supplies, and shelter. Families have been displaced, communities torn apart, and the entire generations are growing up knowing nothing but war and hardship. This cannot be allowed to continue. In Spanish, we say Viva la humanidad. That means long live human rights. Everybody deserves a chance to live. Every person deserves dignity. Spain has been actively providing humanitarian aid to the region. In 2023, Spain provided 50 million euros in humanitarian aids. 19.5 million euros went to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Refugees. In 2024, Spain added more 23.5 million euros. This agency worked for the betterment of Palestinian refugees, not only in Gaza and West Bank, but also in Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria. Gracias.
Delegate of Lebanon, you have the floor.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. So the overview has been presented very well by other delegates, and the delegate of Lebanon would like to put light on a specific event that happened after October 7th. On October 24th, 2023, IDF, Israel Defense Forces, warned residents in northern Gaza to migrate to southern part because there is going to be a bombing in the northern region. Yeah, you heard me right, bombing. And that was to happen in 24 hours. There were 11 lakh residents in northern Gaza. There were more than 20 hospitals with thousands of patients in them in northern Gaza, which was highly condemned by WHO. How in the world were they expecting for the patients, elderly, children, and women? Some of them were even pregnant. By no definition of humanity was this a humane action. Furthermore, warnings were only given to the northern part, yet there were many bombings in the central and southern part as well. Rafah, which is the southmost city of Gaza, has border crossing with Egypt, were not even safe, and they flooded the Egypt border, which was their only way to go. Surrounded by Mediterranean Sea and Israel from both sides, they had nowhere to go, and I demand an answer from Israel for this cruelty. This is one of the many events that has happened since. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, delegate of Israel, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Chair, for recognizing me. The delegate of Israel would like to remind this committee that we have not convened here at this moment to talk over history or the ownership of land, but to pay heed to the humanitarian crisis that is going on in Gaza right now. What would you even do with the land that we give you? Bury your own dead children or civilians that you yourself pushed into this needless conflict? It was your actions that brought upon this suffering on your people. Your constant use of civilian infrastructure as military bases and missile launch sites that forced our hand to act. Your own Muslim neighbors aren't letting your people in as refugees, so how can you expect us to help you when you were the ones that bit the hand that feeds you? Can you ask can you ask Egypt to let your people in when they outright refuse to let them in as refugees because they don't want more of you in there? They know what you can cause in a country once you invade and spread your terrorism. We must remember that it was Yahya Sinwar who himself said that the deaths of Palestinians are necessary for the conflict. What did he mean by this? What kind of a leader would want his own people to be massacred? My fellow delegates, can stop telling us about all the aid they've thrown into this void that has shown us nothing but terrorism. I yield my time to the chair. Thank you.
Delegate of Palestine, you have the floor.
If all of the delegates are done speaking, then I will speak.
So, delegate of Iran, you have the floor.
Am I audible?
Yes, delegate, loud and clear.
The situation in Gaza is horrible. The infrastructure of Gaza is a mess. Many people in Gaza have lost, almost all the people of Gaza have lost their homes due to the conflict and are in need of shelter. The conflict has disrupted education with many schools damaged and closed. The ongoing genocide has caused significant psychological trauma, particularly among children of Palestine. The genocide has led to a severe economic crisis with high level of unemployment and poverty. The blockade on Gaza has restricted movement, making it difficult for people to access basic necessities like food and medicine. This genocide in Gaza, the people of Gaza are facing severe water crisis. There is no water for them. The power of outrage are frequent, affecting hospitals, schools, and homes. People in Gaza are struggling to access nutrition, food, leading to malnutrition. This genocide has damaged healthcare facilities, making it difficult for people to access medical care. There are concerns about the protection of civilians. No, there are no concerns because this is not a war under the law. This is a genocide done by apartheid state Israel. They are thirsty of the blood of the Palestinian children and people because they are the terrorists.
Delegate, your time has elapsed. Okay, so are there any other speakers who want to speak other than the delegate of Palestine? Who want to speak in this mod? If yes, then kindly raise your hands. All those who want to speak in this mod, kindly raise your hands.
I think the delegate of Iran wants to speak again. Am I right? Delegate of Iran.
Am I audible?
Yes.
The delegate of Iran demands the UN to fulfill all the necessities of the Palestinian people. The ongoing conflict in Gaza has been ongoing since October 2023, but there is no ceasefire yet. Around 1.9 million people of Gaza have 2.1 million population are internally displaced. The Israelis are forcing them to leave the Palestine and to moving to the south, and they are then bombing the south to kill them. There is no humanitarian aid. The people in Gaza are in need of humanitarian aid, including food, clean water, and healthcare and shelter. But this aid is blocked by the Israelis. They are not letting this aid reach the Palestinians. Famine is looming in Gaza, with the lack of aid access having devastating effects on the population. The healthcare system in Gaza has almost collapsed, with many hospitals closed due to damage, and the Israelis have bombarded all the hospitals in the Gaza, which is against international laws. There are acute shortage of water, with 67% of critical water infrastructure damage destroyed. And infectious diseases are spreading rapidly, especially in overcrowded areas. So the delegate of Iran demands the UN to give the aid on time to the Palestinian people so that they can survive.
Delegate of Egypt, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. There were some calls put forward by the Israeli delegate that Egypt should consider safe corridors for civilians out of Gaza in light of the most expected ground offensive of the Israeli army. This would go against Egyptian national sovereignty and is not something or a policy that Egypt's government or civil society should consider for different reasons. Sinai Peninsula was occupied by Israel in 1970s and 80s. Egypt paid the heavy price to liberate it. Egypt is afraid of receiving Palestinian civilians who would end up adding to the overall regional crisis of refugees and displaced segments of different populations. So Egypt is trying to mediate to stop the escalation and protect its national security. Thank you.
Delegate of Spain.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So multiple times in this session, it was pointed out whether the humanitarian aid is reaching the right places or not. There have been hurdles in the transfer of humanitarian aid to the right places. And to remind you, these hurdles are not only from the Israel side, but also from Hamas's side. Second, we, as I, the delegate of Spain, can confirm that our funds reach the right places in collaboration with the United Nations United Nations Human Rights Commission and the UNRWA and the European Union. And thirdly, there were concerns by many countries that where is the UN regarding this humanitarian crisis. So first of all, those were the exact countries who disregarded every UN resolution on this matter. So either respect the human rights resolutions or take the blame. So yeah, thank you.
Delegate of Israel. Delegate of Israel, do you want to speak again?
Does the delegate of Palestine would they like to go ahead? So I just want to end the mod then. I would like to be the last person who speaks.
Okay. Delegate of we can entertain, I guess, two more speakers in this moderated caucus because we had a time span of 15 minutes, right? So we can take delegate of Israel followed by delegate of Ireland and I think delegate of Palestine wants to be the last speaker because they raised the moderated caucus. So, delegate of Israel, you can go ahead.
Okay, so thank you, sir, for recognizing me. A fellow delegate just reminded us that the about all the aid that was going to the United Nations organizations and NGOs that were working in Israel or Gaza or Palestine, whatever. So the delegate of Israel would like to remind this committee that the United Nations NGO, which was UNRWA, that was banned by the United Nations, a committee that was established to audit the whole committee because it was revealed by intelligence forces that their own their own employees were involved in attacks that were conducted on October 7th. So when you have an organization that is vetted by the United Nations and their own employees are involved in attacks in a different sovereign country, how can you expect us to aid these organizations so that you can burn all your money, you can invest all this money in these organizations and give them the right infrastructure and the right equipment to conduct attacks on sovereign nations that are trying to protect their own civilians. Their own warehouses were used to store weapons and vehicles that were used in the attack on October 7th. So these organizations have to be answerable, and they have to undergo a whole vetting process to be to make sure that they're not used for any terrorist activities. Okay, thank you.
Delegate of Ireland, followed by delegate of Spain.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. This is the delegate of Ireland speaking. I would like to mention one of the humanitarian law violations that Israel is currently doing and committing in Palestine. And these are not just claims by some random person on the internet. These are the testimonies of Israeli soldiers and commanders that they gave to the Haaretz news agency, that is an Israeli news agency. And they said, according to them, they have been using Palestinian detainees and teenagers as human shields to check for booby traps in buildings and tunnels. Because according to them, the Israeli lives are more important than those of Palestinians. And they said that it is better that they explode and not the Israeli soldiers. There are videos of sexual violence being committed in the Israeli concentration camps against the Palestinian detainees. And the international community is silent over this. Why, I ask? I would like to yield the rest of my time to the chair.
Delegate of Spain, and followed by the delegate of Palestine.
First of all, okay, am I audible?
Yes, delegate, you're audible.
Okay. First thing first, I would like to bring a matter to the attention of the chair that a legitimate committee of the United Nations was just accused of being involved in terrorist activities. Let me remind you that it is not banned by the United Nations. The United States of America, the US Congress, just banned their funding to the UNRWA. UNRWA is constantly monitoring the humanitarian aid to the refugees, and it will continue to do so. So with that, I think this baseless claim should be rejected by the UN, and the delegate of Israel should be answerable to this manipulative statement. Second, if the delegate of Iran and delegate of Lebanon, they are so much concerned about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Iran also shared so many stats, but they haven't contributed a single penny to the humanitarian causes. They have always funded Hamas. Hamas has never been the representative of Palestinian people. In fact, Palestinian people have rejected it. It came into power in 2006. This is more of a dictatorship than a government there. And to remind you all that the Palestinian population themselves revolted against Hamas in 2007. That was called the Gaza Civil War. So yeah, thank you.
Points very well made. Delegate of, do we have delegate of Iran in the committee? Delegate of Iran. Delegate of Iran, would you like to reply to the delegate of Spain?
Delegate of
Am I
Lebanon would like
audible?
to reply.
Am I audible?
Okay. Yes, delegate of Iran, do you want to reply? And then we'll ask the
Yes.
delegate of Lebanon to.
So,
Okay. Delegate, you have 20 seconds to reply.
because Iran is also supporting Palestine from the from the beginning of the Palestinian people their history, but they are supporting Hamas because Hamas is the only I would say the force in the Palestine which is to face the challenges and which face the challenges and which in answer attacks back, which defends its country. That's why Iran supports Hamas, because there should be a force in Palestine which can defend itself, because Palestinian people are not having any weapon, so they cannot defend themselves. There should be a force. Each country have a force, so Iran supports Hamas because it defends its Palestine.
Well done, delegate of Lebanon. Yes.
Yes, thank you. I would like to remind delegate of Spain that Hamas is not a dictatorship. Hamas has been elected by the people, and Hamas is not in all of the Palestine. It is just in Gaza. Because how are you suggesting that two regions that have so much difference in areas among them, and one government can govern them? First of all, second of all, Hamas is not just a military group. It has a political group which is part of PNA, which is a Palestinian National Assembly, and it has political role there, and it has won seats in the assembly. So yeah, Hamas is not a dictatorship.
Well done, delegate. Okay, so delegate of Palestine is the last speaker for this moderated caucus, and then we'll move ahead. Delegate of Palestine.
Honorable Chair and the delegates, the delegate of Palestine stands against the genocide and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people. 40,000 of Palestinian people have been killed by Israel, 16,500 children and 11,000 women. Humanitarian crisis in Gaza continue to escalate. Is it okay for a 10-year-old kid to pick exploded body parts of his own family member? Is it okay to rape women and to kill children? No, it is not. 113 Palestinian journalists has been killed. A report shows that Israel has killed more journalists in Gaza than all of the journalists killed in World War II. Economic conditions in Gaza are worse. Gaza has one of the highest unemployment rate in the world, with the population living below the poverty line. Honorable Chair and the delegates, we have come to a consensus that this issue should be resolved right now. Ceasefire should be done, and the genocide and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people and the killing of innocents should be stopped. Thank you.
Okay, Momina here. I would like to mention that Subhan Bhai has left for some important piece of work, so you will be chairing this session on your own. He has dropped down some critique for the participants. I'll share that with you as well.
I think Momna's internet might be lagging. We can continue. Are we done with the general speaking list? Oh, this was mod. So we are done with the first mod. All speakers were the first mod, right?
Yes, I guess the time's up.
Am I audible?
Yes, Momna, you are.
Okay, so the time for this mod is over. Since we don't have a lot of time and we just have one session left, that would be utilized for presenting of resolution, right? So I think the committee should move ahead towards solutions in this moderated caucus, in the coming moderated caucus. So are there any motions on the floor?
Spain has raised a hand.
Okay, so delegate of Spain, yes, you have the floor.
The delegate of Spain would like to raise a moderated caucus on the UN intervention in disarming the Israel-Palestine region, causing an immediate ceasefire. Thank you.
Delegate time parameters.
The time parameters are every speaker once 1 minute individual time and 15 minutes total time.
Okay.
Delegate of Iran and delegate of Israel. They also have raised their hands.
Delegate of Iran, yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Delegate of Iran wants to raise a motion on the topic, the role of international community in solving the issue.
The role of international, okay. Are the time parameters same as last mod delegate?
15 minutes, 1.5 minutes for each delegate, 10 speaker
Okay.
will speak.
Okay. Delegate of Israel, yes.
The delegate of Israel would like to raise a motion for a moderate caucus on forcing a ceasefire within the region and opening up a migration corridor to Egypt so that the refugees in Rafah can live.
Delegate, can you repeat the topic?
Forcing a ceasefire and opening up the migration corridors in the Rafah border.
Okay. Time parameters, delegate.
This total stipulated time will be 15 minutes for each, for 1 minute to each speaker.
Okay. Are there any other motions? I can see a hand raised. Can you please tell me who it is? Okay. So since we don't have any other motions, we'll be voting upon the motion raised. So first we'll be voting upon the motion raised by the delegate of Spain, which is intervention in disarming and contribution to ceasefire. Time parameters 15-1. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Can somebody write the total count in the chat box? The number of people who raised their hands.
Up to now, it's 5.
Okay, what's the simple majority today?
We have 13 people, so simple majority would be 7.
7, 8. Okay, so this motion, guys, okay, this motion fails. We'll be voting upon the motion raised by the delegate of Iran, which was role of international community in resolving the Israeli-Palestinian issue. Time parameters 15-1.5. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay. 4.
Five.
Delegates, please. Okay. 5. You have to move towards the solutions.
6 hands. So this motion fails.
This motion, this motion fails. Now we'll be voting upon the motion raised by the delegate of Israel, which is forcing a ceasefire in the region and transferring the migration corridor in Rafah border to Egypt. Time parameters 15-1. All those in favor, please raise your placards. Sorry, hands. If you guys don't pass this motion, the committee will revert back.
Three. 4.
Delegates, are you sure? Because if you guys don't discuss solutions in this moderated caucus, you guys won't be able to write a resolution, because you cannot write anything in the resolution that hasn't been discussed in the committee. And you guys made blocks yesterday, so you should have discussed the moderated caucuses.
Can we present a motion like for an unmod to write the resolution? Because I think we did discuss some solution-oriented motions yesterday as well.
Okay, so you can raise a motion. Okay, we'll be taking three other motions.
Can we repeat the voting again? Can we repeat voting again? The same motions.
Okay, the first motion, which was raised by the delegates, please be vigilant. We are voting again on the same motions. First, the motion raised by the delegate of Spain, UN intervention in disarming and contribution to ceasefire. Time parameters 15-1. All those in favor, please raise your hands. This motion passes.
Yeah, this passes.
Okay, this motion passes. Delegate of Spain, would you like to be the first or the last speaker of this moderated caucus?
I would go first.
Okay. All the delegates wishing to speak, please raise your hands. Delegate of Spain, you have the floor.
Audible clearly?
Yes, delegate.
Okay. First of all, we have made it clear that for any long-term solution to happen, there needs to be an immediate cessation of hostilities. This is not a request. This is a moral imperative. And just a month earlier, we had a United Nations Security Council session, and in that, the government of Spain supports the call of the President of the United States, the President of Egypt, and the Emir of Qatar to conclude and implement without further delay the ceasefire agreement in Gaza and to set free hostages and detainees in accordance with President Biden's initiative and UN Security Council Resolution 2735. Second of all, the delegate of Spain would like to propose a United Nations Commission on Israel and Palestine that would look through the ceasefire, have dialogues with Hamas and Israel, and would contribute actively to the ceasefire initiative and going towards a two-state solution. The UNCIP would consist of representatives of the United Nations as well as major neutral powers, and we also propose the location of the peace talks to be the great country of Spain and the great city of Madrid. So yeah, these are the solutions we proposed, and I request the international community to please look upon this, join us, and this is the only way to peace. Thank you. Gracias.
Okay, delegate of Iran.
Am I audible?
Yes, delegate.
The delegate of Iran, first of all, demands the UN for the immediate ceasefire in the Palestine. Stop the violence and prevent further loss of life. Allow for humanitarian aid to reach those in need. Create a conducive environment for the peaceful negotiation. Help to de-escalate tensions and reduce the risk of further conflict. Continue to pass resolution calling for a ceasefire. Engage in diplomatic effort to persuade all parties to comply. Deploy peacekeeping forces or observers to monitor the situation, provide humanitarian aid and support to affected population, facilitate negotiation between the parties to address underlying issues and achieve a lasting peace. And the Iranian delegate demand the UN to recognize the Palestine as a single state, as a independent country in the UN. What are they waiting for? How many laws to break? Israel is breaking all the international law. The Iranian delegate demands the UN for the immediate ceasefire in the conflict.
Delegate of Lebanon.
Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible?
Yes, delegate.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. So, as a delegate of Lebanon, a nation that has long been at the crossroad on conflict and peace, I rise today to address the critical issue of UN intervention in disarming and contributing a ceasefire in the Israel-Palestine conflict. First and foremost, let me be clear, Lebanon strongly supports any effort that leads to sustainable and just peace in the region. We believe that the United Nations has a crucial role to play in facilitating dialogue, ensuring humanitarian crisis, and mediating ceasefire. However, the question of disarming must be approached with great caution, particularly in context of complex and deeply rooted conflicts like one between Israel and Palestine. Lebanon firmly believes that disarmament should not be imposed unilaterally or in a manner that undermines the legitimate rights of any party to defend itself. In conclusion, Lebanon calls for a balanced, just, and comprehensive approach to the UN intervention in this conflict. Disarmament must be pursued within the context of border peace process that addresses the legitimate rights and security concerns of all parties. We stand ready to support any initiative that brings us closer to the future where the children of Middle East can live free from the fear of violence. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Okay, next we have the delegate of Germany.
Yes, hello. Dear delegates and esteemed chair, today we gather Germany, being the advocate of human rights and international law upholding and of international peace and security, demands immediate ceasefire from the UN and provides the following solutions. First of all, de-escalation mechanisms should be upheld, like international observers and peacekeeping forces under the UN. Similarly, diplomatic pressure should be applied on both the sides so that they come to an agreement in the peace talks. Similarly, human rights tribunals should be held like the ones we have seen in Rwanda and Yugoslavia, which will ensure that all those who have committed human rights violations, human rights violations, are brought to justice. So Germany demands immediate peace talks and also a solution to the ongoing crisis. Thank you.
The delegate of France.
Mr. President and delegates, as a delegate of France, I want to make it clear that France proposes a robust UN intervention to disarm militant groups and contribute to a lasting ceasefire in Gaza. We must act decisively to neutralize the terrorist threat, protect civilian populations, and with that support a sustainable ceasefire. France recommends some of the points: deployment of UN peacekeeping forces to Gaza and establishment of a UN-led disarmament commission, implementation of a comprehensive arms embargo. With that, support for Palestinian Authority's security efforts and increased humanitarian assistance. France is prepared to contribute troops to the UN peacekeeping mission, provide financial support for disarmament efforts, and engage in diplomatic efforts to secure international backing. We call on Israel to facilitate UN access and cooperation. We call on Palestinian factions to commit to disarmament and ceasefire. And we call on regional actors to support UN efforts. Together, we can create conditions for a lasting peace. That's all.
A delegate of Norway.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. The delegate of Norway appreciates the points that have been put forward by the respectable delegate of Spain. We appreciate the formation of the UNCIP, the independent commission which would oversee the entire process. In addition to this, it must be made clear that Norway supports the two-state solution. Therefore, we would like to add a few points onto the proposal that has been presented by the delegate of Spain. First and foremost, we note that for the establishment of peace in the region, Israeli forces would have to withdraw from the areas that they have occupied. The territories that would be split between the two states would be according to Resolution 242 and 338, which mean that Gaza and West Bank would be given handed over to the Palestinian side, and all other territories would be given over to the Israeli side, with Jerusalem functioning as a buffer zone, and that we recognize the Palestinian National Authority, or the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, when we initiate in talks between both sides. That will be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Ireland.
Thank you, Chair. If you look at the previous United States resolutions of 1967 or the 1973 or even the Oslo Accords, or we shall like to call them the failures of the United States, of the United Nations. In these resolutions, there was always ambiguous language used. There were no clear definition of the boundaries, and there was no enforcement mechanism, leaving it dependent on the willingness of the parties. And of course, the settlements and the occupation continued. Today, the UN has to put international pressure on both Palestine and Hamas to withdraw from this war. Israel should be held accountable for its humanitarian law violations to the extreme, and it shall address the root causes of this conflict. The Republic of Ireland would like to propose to the UN to create a two-state solution for this conflict with the boundaries of the pre-1967. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. I think we'll only be taking 10 speakers for this moderated caucus, since after 5 minutes you have your break time. So yeah, next we have Delegate of Egypt.
Thank you, Chair. We demand for an immediate ceasefire and the end of blockade of Gaza from UN. The UN can enhance its monitoring and intervention efforts by deploying a robust and impartial peacekeeping mission with a clear mandate to protect civilians and monitor human rights violations. This mission should include human rights observers, rapid response terms, and technology tools for real-time surveillance. Strengthening the role of the UN Human Rights Council in gathering and publicizing evidence, coupled with increased diplomatic pressure and sanctions against parties violating human rights, can also be effective. Additionally, the UN should facilitate continuous dialogue between the conflicting parties to prevent escalation and ensure compliances with the international law. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Palestine.
The delegate of Palestine demands for immediate and permanent ceasefire. UN supports for the call for ceasefire and have the authority to do so, but still more than 10 months have passed and no call for ceasefire. Only way to attain peace at both of the sides is the call for ceasefire and this two-state solution, but under some stances. The areas that were allotted to Palestine under the 1948 law should be given back to them. The occupied Palestine and the Gaza Strip and the West Bank should be given back to the Palestinian people, and Jerusalem should be made the capital of Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Israel.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me. The delegate of Israel is shocked at the title of our moderated caucus. Disarmament? How can you disarm a man that has grown up holding an AK-47 when he should have been holding crayons? We must not be blind to the child soldiers in the child training camps that are scattered all around Palestine. The delegate of Israel would like to remind the committee that in the ongoing peace talks that are happening in Qatar right now, one of the Hamas leaders spoke to the media and he said that the Hamas was willing to give up governing the whole Gaza Strip, but it was never going to it is never going to agree to lay down its arms. So how can you expect us to agree for a ceasefire when the other party roams around carrying weapons and attacking us whenever they feel like it? So the delegate of Israel would also like to remind the committee that there has been multiple instances when the committee when the state of Israel has agreed to a ceasefire and to conditions allowing for peace and development within this region, but it was always Hamas or Palestinians that backed out of deals and never agreed to them. The delegate of Israel would also like to remind the committee that uh, that the okay, so that's I'm just going to yield the time to Bashir.
Thank you, delegate. I think three other delegates have raised their hands. Do you guys want to speak? Okay, we can have more speakers. Okay, so delegate of Spain.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. And am I audible?
Yes, delegate.
Okay. First of all, there was a mention of cautious approach toward the disarmament of the region. So I think that our proposal, the formation of United Nations Commission of Israel and Palestine, and dialogue, and them holding dialogue with both parties, seems like a very cautious approach. Second, we accept the demand of delegate of France and support them that UN peacekeeping forces should be deployed in the region that would promote the ceasefire, and also there should be an arms embargo. Third, there was an accountability issue mentioned. So we already proposed in the last session that there should be involvement of United Nations uh, Commission on Human Rights and the International Court of Justice. Third, that the chair should ask the delegate of Israel, inquire about them, about the source of the news. I think the source of the news is Israel TV or Netanyahu TV. I don't know. And once again, I would like to call for the ask the United States that they have also recognized that the boundaries of 1967 by in 2016 by calling the Israeli settlements illegal. So all these countries, France, United States, Lebanon, we invite them to join our bloc and go towards a peaceful resolution that will solve this issue once and for all. Thank you. Delegate of France, Lebanon, please.
Okay, we will entertain the speakers written on the board, and then that's it. We cannot have any more speakers. Okay, the delegate of US.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. The United States acknowledges the UN's important role in seeking peace in the Israel-Palestine conflict. The UN's work on ceasefire is essential for reducing immediate suffering and providing aid. Our President Joe Biden quoted, and I say, the United States supports efforts to de-escalate and end violence, and we stand ready to assist in ensuring that humanitarian aid reaches those in need, unquote. This highlights our commitment to ending violence and addressing humanitarian issues. We urge the UN to continue its effort to secure and maintain ceasefires and to support the disarmament in a way that protects the Israeli security and integrity as it is surrounded by Arabian countries from all sides except West, which is the Mediterranean Sea. Peace requires ongoing efforts from the UN and cooperation from all sides. Together, we can strive for a safer and fairer future for everyone. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, delegate. Delegate of Lebanon.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. So some of the points that I would like to add from my side of the solution is, first of all, we urge the UN to reinforce its commitment to a two-state solution, which was basically in 1967 resolution 228 or something, to reinforce that. Also, we encourages the UN to recognize East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine, as it has been in the international community, and the East Jerusalem, the peace would be brought about better if the East Jerusalem was part of capital of Palestine. Secondly, the issue of disarmament. I think what happens if, let's say, we disarm Hamas and the resolution is not followed by Israel, then we have no, then the Hamas had, then the Gaza has literally no protection. So first of all, we would like to see that the resolution has passed, boundaries are marked, the refugees have gone to their places, the settlements in West Bank are gone by Israel, and that the UN has rehabilitated Gaza enough that it can militarily defend itself. And then we will talk about disarmament of Gaza, disarmament of Hamas. So that's all from my side.
Delegate of Iran.
Am I audible?
Yes, delegate.
Hello?
Yes, delegate.
The delegate of Iran wants ceasefire immediately, but also the peace only happens when the criminals are punished. So, delegate of Iran wants UN to take strict action against the breaking of law by the Israelis, because they have broken all the laws. Israel occupies Palestinian land against international law. Israel blockades Palestinian territories against international law. Israel builds and expands settlements against international law. Israel promotes an apartheid system that restricts the movements of Palestinians against international law. Israel regularly and systematically attacks and kills the civilian against international law. How does the world respond to it, and how can UN take this abuse of international laws? According to Geneva 4th Convention, Article 38, you cannot attack civilians, you cannot attack hospitals, you cannot occupy territories. According to UN Charter, Article number 1, the sovereignty and protection of civilian is first priority, but Israel has broken all the laws, so UN should take action, strict actions against these violations of laws. And then all the territories and boundaries which were occupied by Israel should be given back to Palestine, and Palestine should be recognized as a single separate state with the capital of Jerusalem, the greater Palestine. And the Iran demands for the one state solution, the Palestine, because it was the Palestine. The Israel was nowhere in the history. So the Iranian delegates wants the whole, and US said that US delegates said they are providing
Delegate,
aid to.
your time has elapsed.
One sentence.
Yes, yes.
US said that they are providing aid to Palestine, but they are also providing weapons to Israelis to kill those people whom they are providing aid.
Okay, last speaker for this moderated caucus, delegate of Pakistan.
Assalamu alaikum. The solution for this very controversial issue is very simple. Bring both the nations under the UN, and they must come and see the sufferings on both the sides. Either Israel has caused Palestine or Palestine has caused Israel. Both the leaders must agree on the ceasefire, and if it's not possible, so they must make circumstances possible. And if any country has suffered the loss, and of course there are a lot of violences and variances that have occurred since this war has been started, so wherever are the losses, they must come and revenge them, and the revenge must not be in the form of violence or sufferings. They must come, and with the power of with the weapon of writing and agreements, they must contribute to the solution of this problem. This is all I would want to say.
Okay, delegate. So the time for this moderated caucus has elapsed. Now I'm looking towards a motion for suspension of debate. Are there any motions on the floor? Yes, delegate of Iran.
Am I audible?
Yes, delegate.
The delegate of Iran wants to raise a motion for the suspension of this moderated caucus.
That motion is highly in order. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, that motion passes. Guys, so you are in an unmoored now and you have your break. So you have to make a resolution in this break. I hope you guys are aware of how a resolution is made. Please, the ones who know, raise your
Just
hand
for
so that I know.
just just for their information, can you like share the
Okay,
overview of our resolution?
it is going to take a lot of time, but I'm just going to tell you the brief overview of how a resolution is written, right? So you have authors, people who write the resolution. Say you make a heading, authors. एक तो आपके 3 resolutions बनेंगे. We have 3 blocks, right? कोई please somebody tell me. Yeah, okay. So you have 3 blocks. आपके पास 3 resolutions होंगे. Resolution 1.1, resolution 1.2 and resolution 1.3. सही है, जो भी authors या main obviously एक आपका Israel lead करेगा, the Israeli block, and then the Palestinian block, Palestine, and जो भी तीसरा कर रहा है, the neutral block. उसमें authors होते हैं, there cannot be more than 3 authors, and then the signatories होते हैं, the ones who are voting for that resolution, जो उस resolution के favor में, and the countries who will vote for that resolution whenever it is presented in the committee. सही है? And then you have preambulatory clauses, which are basically problems. आपका topic था humanitarian crisis in Israeli-Palestinian issue. सही है? So you have to write down all the problems that you have discussed in the committee, and since you haven't had a lot of sessions, we had less time, so you can add a few problems that haven't been discussed because हमारे पास इतने committee sessions थे नहीं to discuss all the problems, right? Preambulatory clauses, which are basically problems, and then there are operative clauses, which are basically solutions of those problems. A good resolution is a one जिसमें जो solutions होते हैं या operative clauses होते हैं are more in number than the preambulatory clauses. सही है? Another thing, जब आप कोई भी चलें preambulatory clauses, we are most focused on the operative clauses, which are basically solutions. तो उसमें आपने जब भी लिखना है, for example, if you are suggesting something, तो आपने उसका पूरा framework बताना है. सही है? For example, if you are saying that we want 2 states, तो उसमें you just don't have to give a vague statement. आपने बताना है कि 2 states की boundaries क्या होंगी, उसके borders क्या होंगे, वहाँ पे security forces कौन भेजेगा, उसको maintain कौन करेगा. आपने ये सारी चीजें बतानी है कि कितना agricultural land किसको जाएगा, which portion of water supply will go to which country. आपने when you state these statements कि इस तरह होगा, for example, you give a solution कि UN should make a security force or a moderating body so that the problems don't escalate in the future. तो आपने ये भी बताना है कि उस moderating body में कौन-कौन सी countries contribute करेंगी. For example, you can say that P5 की security forces आएंगी and will moderate the border. सही है? तो इस तरह you have to give a proper framework of the solutions that you are suggesting. बाकी I would recommend that Google करें resolution, draft resolution, and see the pattern and stuff. वो वहाँ से आपको पता चल जाएगा. When you're writing a preambulatory clause, उसके end पे आप एक comma लगाते हैं, and when you're writing an operative clause, उसके end पे full stop लगता है. सही है? Yes, Delegate of Iran.
Ma'am, if someone is not in a block of 2 resolution, तो उसे अपना अलग से block बनाना होगा ना?
But एक बंदे का तो block नहीं हो सकता ना, because आपने obviously you need votes for your resolution to pass. जिसके resolution में for a resolution to pass, for a motion to pass, you need total majority. Means जितने लोग हैं उसके half से एक बंदा ज़्यादा. But for a resolution to pass, you need 2/3 majority. मतलब double 67% of the people should vote for that resolution. तो आपको ज़्यादा votes चाहिए होते हैं for your resolution to pass. तो एक बंदे का block है तो obviously that resolution cannot pass. और आपका main motive ये है कि आप resolution pass कराएं. अगर एक भी resolution pass ना हुआ तो your committee will fail. और इस जिस MUN में committee fail होती है उसमें awards नहीं मिलते. In actual MUN, this is online. लेकिन जो actual MUNs होते हैं, if you guys ever go, इंशाल्लाह, तो उसमें जो कमेटी फेल हो जाती है उसमें बेस्ट डेलीगेट अवार्ड नहीं होता, ओडी और HMs दे देते हैं यूजुअली. तो your motive should be to pass the committee or to pass a resolution. आप लोग कोशिश जो भी resolution बना रहे हैं लिख रहे हैं वो कोशिश ये करें to add maximum people in your block and to make maximum people agree with the statements that you have written and the solutions that you have suggested, ताकि maximum लोग आपके resolution के लिए vote करें और वो pass हो जाए. Yes, Delegate of Iran. Yes, Delegate. Delegate of Iran. Hello, am I audible?
तो yep, अच्छा तो मैंने ये पूछा था कि वो do we have to make a working paper या फिर डायरेक्ट बस resolutions बना दे?
Working paper, are you asking about that?
Yep.
So working paper basically blocks का नहीं होता, working paper होता है हर individual delegate का, सही है? Before you come to MUN, आप अपना working paper बना के आते हो, जिसमें आप ये लिख के आते हो कि ये problems हैं और ये solution. That is basically हर delegate का individual draft resolution is called a working paper, ताकि delegate को एक pattern मिला हो कि मैंने इस direction में debate करनी है, ताकि उसको पता हो कि मैंने committee में क्या क्या चीजें discuss करनी है. तो जब block बनता है तो जो multiple delegates of that block they come together, वो अपने working paper में से information निकालते हैं and they form a draft resolution. So obviously at this point you cannot make a working paper. We'll directly jump to the draft resolution and discuss that.
मैम
Yes.
फॉर एग्जांपल अगर मैं 2 स्टेट वाले ब्लॉक में बैठ जाता हूँ तो लेकिन मैं वहाँ पे वोट तो नहीं कर सकता क्योंकि अकॉर्डिंग टू ईरानियन फॉरेन पॉलिसी, तो क्या ये पॉसिबल है कि मैं बस उस ब्लॉक में बैठ जाऊँ बट एब्सटेन करूँ वोट करने से 2 स्टेट सोल्यूशन को?
नहीं, क्योंकि आपकी जितनी भी स्पीचेस हैं you have never stated that you support a two-state solution, right? तो वो तो आपकी अपनी you are harming your own position as a delegate. अगर आप इस किस्म के आप ब्लॉक में इस तरह है कि कोई ब्लॉक जो आपकी कंट्री के स्टांस के अगेंस्ट क्लॉजेस सजेस्ट कर रहे, you cannot vote for that block. सही है? Iran, you should go to the Palestinian block. जी जी
मैं पैलेस्टीनियन ब्लॉक में ही बैठूंगा बट मैं 2 स्टेट के लिए वोट नहीं कर सकता ना उस ब्लॉक में बैठ के.
नहीं, वो तो जो ब्लॉक फॉर्मेशन है दैट इज समथिंग वेरी इनफॉर्मल, लाइक मतलब एज अ चेयर आई ओनली हैव टू सी योर ड्राफ्ट रेजोल्यूशन और मैंने उस पर वोटिंग करानी है. बाकी आप जिस ब्लॉक के ग्रुप में जाते हो, आप जिससे क्या कम्युनिकेट करते हो, दैट इज अप टू यू. बट एज अ चेयर आई हैव टू सी which block which resolution you're voting for and does your country's stance align with the resolution that you're voting for. तो इसमें तो मुझे तो कोई वो नहीं है कि आप जिस ब्लॉक के कंट्रीज के साथ कम्युनिकेट करते हो. I hope everything is clear. You guys should go and check out search ये draft resolution on Google and see how it is written. दूसरी बात कि जब आप प्रीएम्बुलेटरी और ऑपरेटिव क्लॉजेस लिखते हो उसके स्टार्टिंग स्पेसिफिक वर्ड्स होते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल जब आप प्रीएम्बुलेटरी क्लॉजेस लिखते हो उसमें लिखता है कंसिडरिंग, इन द लाइट ऑफ, और इस तरह जब आप प्रॉब्लम स्टेट कर रहे हो तो जो सॉल्यूशंस आप दे रहे हो तो ऑपरेटिव क्लॉजेस उसके भी शुरू में यू हैव टू ऐड सम वर्ड्स. फॉर एग्जांपल suggesting or whatever it is, you can Google it and you'll find a lot of clauses which you
I
can
have
use.
shared that in the group, Momina.
Okay. That is very great. So you guys can go make the resolution and in next session, inshallah, we'll present that. Best of luck.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.